Many times divorcing couples come in to a divorce mediation session with some preconceived notions and beliefs about custody. And much of that is a result of the learning that they have experienced throughout their entire lives. These terms relating to divorce, many people hear these terms and immediately when couples go through the divorce experience, they Google these custody terms, trying to educate themselves, and then they get some false perceptions of what custody really is. For example, there are basically 4 different types of custody. There is joint custody, there is sole custody, and there is split custody. And in the joint custody world, there's a subcategory called joint physical custody. The word joint denotes in a custody label that the couples are going to, at a minimum, share in decision-making authority, which means that they're going to converse and collaborate and communicate with each other as co-parents and work together on all the decisions that they're going to be making for their children. It can further denote the amount of time that the children are going to be spending with each parent. So a joint legal custody label would mean that the parties are sharing just decision making, but that the children are going to have kind of a home base parent where they're going to sleep with one of the parents' homes more than the other. If the parties choose to have a joint physical custody relationship, then they are usually striving towards more of a 50-50 parenting time arrangement where the kids will live at each parent's home more than a third of the time, up to 50% of the time. Split custody references situations where there are multiple children and the children will live primarily, one child will live primarily with one parent and one will live with another parent. Very rare. And sole custody references one parent having exclusive decision-making authority. They call all of the shots when it comes to the parenting decisions in terms of the value-based decisions and kind of the moral compass decisions. And of course, a sole custody arrangement would have that parent being what's called the primary custodial parent. So that's a brief definition of custody. There are other videos that you will be seeing that are available to you that will give a much more descriptive explanation of custody. The purpose of this video is to enlighten people that are going through a divorce that the label of custody that you choose and the perception that it's going to give some kind of guarantee or additional authority or power is a myth, and it is one that many people are very disappointed in. The best way for me to illustrate this would be to give a hypothetical situation. If a mother comes in to mediation and says, I do not get along with my soon-to-be ex-husband, and I am a very religious person, and I want in our agreement it to say that I am going to have exclusive decision-making on all issues. Thus, I would like sole custody. And I would furthermore like to have a clause that states that my child is going to be raised and indoctrinated and in environments that are conducive to the Catholic faith. And I intend to have my children raised in that religion. And for a minute, let's pretend that the husband, the father of these children, stipulates to that in the mediation and states, okay, I will agree that the children can be raised in the Catholic Church and that you're going to make that decision and that there will be no problem for me on that. And they sign their agreement and they're done. Then let's pretend that things change, because you can be assured that things will change. And in this story, the husband decides that he is going to embrace the Buddhist faith and the Buddhist religion, and he indoctrinates himself and becomes a true believer of the Buddhist principles. And so much so that he very much wants his children to be indoctrinated with those. And he goes to his ex-wife and says, I would like to introduce them to that. And his ex-wife tells him, absolutely not. I make those decisions, and on top of me making those decisions, we've already stipulated they're going to be raised in the Catholic Church. Then in this story, let's pretend that the husband has, the father of these children, has these children for his parenting time, and he decides to take them to a Buddhist church and give them a Buddhist experience. And the children come running home to their mother, and they say to their mother, we had the greatest time with Dad, and we really, really like the Buddhist church. You can imagine what the mother's going to do. She calls up the husband, says, you can't do that. We've already agreed. It's in our decree. And there is an order from the court that is stipulated and ordered that we are to honor my wishes and that we've already agreed they're going to be raised Catholic. And the husband says, I don't care. I feel so strongly about this. I'm going to do what I want. So she then calls her mediator, because in their agreement there's a mediation clause. And the mediator explains to both of them when they come in that there is an order of the courts. And he looks at the father and says, do you understand that the judge has ordered this? And incidentally, this is what you agreed to. And the father says to the mediator, I do understand that, but I've changed my mind. And the mediator explains, well, you don't get to change your mind unless she agrees that this is okay. And he says, then I guess I will have to suffer the consequences of going to court. And the mother of the children goes and gets an attorney, and the attorney explains to her, this is a violation of the decree, and he is in contempt of court. And this is a slam dunk case, and we will absolutely make sure that he is brought to justice. And he is ordered to go into a courtroom, and he doesn't even bother to get an attorney. And he and his ex-wife are sitting in the courtroom, and the judge enters, and the judge asks them to explain the case, and they explain, and the attorney for the mother says he is absolutely violating the decree, that they went to mediation, and he openly defied the court order with a mediator there as well, and that was the purpose of this, and that the court should compel him to matter-of-factly follow the decree. Now you should note that in a contempt order, in many states, the judge has complete discretion. The judge can do lots of things. They can impose fines. They can ultimately put somebody who is in contempt of court in jail. And this mother is so angry that her attorney says, would you like us to ask the judge to put this man in jail? Yes, I would, because I'm very irritated and he needs to have a lesson. And the judge asks, what would you like me to do if I find in favor of you, ma'am? I would like to have him put in jail. Okay. And then he asks the man to stand. And he says to the father, are you in fact violating my order that I signed stating that the kids will be raised Catholic? Yes, Your Honor, I am. Do you understand that that violation constitutes breaking the law and that I could put you in jail if I wanted? Yes. Am I going to have a problem with this in the future? No, Your Honor. Okay. Case over. Next case. And the mother looks at her attorney. What just happened? The attorney says, we just beat him really bad. And the couple walks out of the courthouse. And the mother is somewhat surprised at what happened, but feeling that justice was served because after all, her attorney told her that they had just won. As they walk down the stairs, the husband looks at the mother and says, by the way, I have the children this weekend, and I am going to be officially introducing them and baptizing them. I don't know what they do in the Buddhist religion, but I am going to make them full-fledged members of the Buddhist faith. And you're invited to the luncheon that we're going to have after. And the mother, infuriated, looks at her attorney and says, did you hear that? And the attorney says, yes. Give me $2,000, we're going to file a motion, we're going to take him to court, find him in contempt. Many people would think that I'm being facetious when I explain that and that I'm exaggerating. In fact, I'm not. And when couples expect that the label of custody is going to somehow give them some authority, they're very, very surprised and oftentimes saddened to find out the label of custody does very little. Because the courts are not designed, a judge is ultimately, in that case, not going to put a father in jail and make it to where that father is not able to see his children or certainly provide for them financially. And this is an area where the system is kind of broken and it frustrates many people. Now, I should note that if either of the parties are breaking the law and committing felony actions, of course, that's different. But when it comes to these core parenting things like religion, like discipline philosophies, like having a voice in being able to decide what friends your kids are going to hang out with, and being able to share in the decision-making when it comes to the activities that they're going to participate in. Those kinds of things, regardless of custody, are going to depend on one thing and one thing only, and that is the couple's ability to communicate. No custody label is going to guarantee that one of the parties will have a significant advantage, because when the children are with the other party, they get to do pretty much whatever they want to do with those children under the statute. In mediation, that's one of the gentle reality checks that we provide, and hopefully it gets couples to realize that while there is some reasons to have different labels of custody, which is explained in other videos, one of the reasons should never be that you are hoping it will guarantee that you will be able to have an extraordinary amount of authority over and control over the other parent.